Singaporeans love their food, and we are spoilt for choice when it comes to options. But most of what we eat is imported. Everything from fresh meats and vegetables to frozen items to pantry staples. In fact, Singapore imports 90% of all the food consumed here. Even when the COVID-19 pandemic hit and countries around the world, including Singapore, had to shut borders, the food kept coming in. And ensuring that our food supply chain remains unbroken is a large number of frontline workers. Who are some of these men and women who maintain that food lifeline?
Carrying cargo now, it does feel good knowing that it is still essential for the country, that I'm still part of this value chain.
We are the maritime frontliners, so we must make sure that we remind each other to be careful when we go on board.
Of course, my family is fearful. I actually assure them that I will keep myself safe at work.
During circuit breaker, my kids will call me, then I will tell them I will be late.
Di saat saya kerja dekat sini lah, boleh tolong family, rindu family lagi.
Food imports to Singapore are from over 170 countries and regions. These include items such as frozen meats and seafood, fresh fruits and vegetables, all manner of dry goods. They all come in either via land, sea, or air. Singapore imports fish from some 80 countries. Indonesia alone accounts for 21% of total fish imports. Today, Jetstar flight captain Adrian Toh is bringing in live fish from Jakarta.
There are three things that are on my mind when we carry cargo, especially a lot of cargo. The first thing would be the document and the paperwork. I have to make sure that the cargo that I'm carrying is the correct cargo in the correct amount going to the correct destination. The second would be the aerodynamic considerations. An aircraft actually has to be balanced quite well when it's flying. If it's too heavy in the back, the nose will tip up and you're unstable in flight. And obviously the other way around, if your nose is too heavy, you might not even be able to lift off from the runway. And the last one would be if there are technical problems with the aircraft. For example, if you suspect that you may have sucked a bird into the engine, when you landed at an airport, obviously you don't want to allow your intended cargo to be loaded so quickly, especially if they are perishable items like vegetables or live fish or crabs for that matter, because you're not sure if the aircraft is still airworthy for you to return back to your point of origin. And you also don't want the cargo to be left in the hot sun in the tarmac.
With food items like live fish, the pilot must also ensure there are no spillages.
When it comes to the physical handling of cargo, for example, if some of the cargo is spilled, then yes, I would appreciate if the cargo loaders could be upfront and quick in telling me that there have been spillage, and then I would have to prevent the next batch of cargo from being loaded while I make arrangements for the cargo hold to be cleaned, for example, or for it to be inspected to make sure that there is no contamination for the next load of cargo.
Adrian did not used to have to deal with so much cargo logistics. Before the pandemic, he flew passenger flights 5 times a week across Asia and Australia. With COVID-19 grounding most air travel, things changed.
When COVID-19 hit, the company could not mount the type of flights that we wanted to do. And because of that, I also was put on an inactive status for almost a year so that the company could still maintain a lower operating cost but also perhaps preserve the jobs of the pilots for the future. It was a big shock at first, and of course I was very worried. When flying was at its height pre-COVID, You never have to worry if the company would do well the next day or if you would still have a job the next day. We have to appreciate the difficulties that the company was going through financially, and then also have our own expectation of when we will be called back.
The sudden turn of events affected Adrian's family too.
To suddenly see that their father was now sitting at home most of the times, Also, they could sense that my moods and emotions were affected. It did affect them as well. I would say that my family tried their best to be supportive of me. They did try to economize their spending at home also, but I could not deny the fact that I felt disappointed that I'm not doing enough for my family.
During the enforced break, Adrian worked as a contact tracer with the Ministry of Health until January 2021. That was when Jetstar recalled him to flying duties.
It was bittersweet knowing that I got to return to doing something that I loved, but not everyone would be in the same situation as me. And I was aware that because of the existing border controls, the flying will be much reduced. I would say 20% or less than that of our pre-COVID flying. So the reduced flying opportunities naturally meant that I'll be earning less because we are paid in accordance to how much we work a month. I decided that since I've put in so much into trying to be a good pilot, perhaps come back and become a pilot and resume flying, which I've loved all these years. How border restrictions pan out and how COVID transitions to the endemic phase is beyond my control. And although there were still uncertainties ahead, but it was a positive development and my wife and children were happy for me.
Adrian had to undergo rigorous retraining to get back in the air. And since then, the 50-year-old has been piloting turnaround flights, carrying cargo within Southeast Asia 3 times a week.
The pivot to cargo flying was a great call by the company. It reduced the uncertainty for me on how I could earn a living and continue being a pilot. As far as carrying cargo now, it does feel good knowing that it is still essential for the country. Livestock, food, groceries, or even consignments such as the things we buy on e-commerce and all that. So it's gratifying to know that I'm still part of this value chain, that I'm not redundant to the economy of the country for that matter.
But piloting those cargo flights does come with some risks and precautions that must be taken.
Firstly, when we are flying, you are actually allowed to remove your mask if the doors are closed in the cockpit, so that you could perhaps make radio calls clearer, or if you're wearing glasses, the airflow diverted from your mask may not fog up your glasses. But for me, I still take the pains to wear a mask. It's just personal habit. I do endeavour not to touch my eyes or my face if I have not washed my hands now. Sometimes when I still wake up with the sniffles, I do take the effort to do an ART for myself, even though it's quite expensive to keep buying the kits. On top of the CAS mandated test, at least 2 to 3 times a month.
While that cargo of fish makes its way from Jakarta via air, other food items are coming into Singapore via sea and overland. Overland, live chickens are trucked in from various farms in Malaysia. These ones come from the Malacca farm of Leong Hup Foods. Nearly 200,000 chickens are imported by Leong Hup every week. 12 trucks will collect around 3,000 chickens each from farms in Johor and Malacca and deliver them to Singapore every Monday to Friday. The trips are all made overnight when it's cooler, and with less traffic, the journeys are shorter. via sea, we get a whole variety of food items. Between these food items and all other imports, more than 100,000 vessels call at our port annually, making it the world's second busiest. With all that heavy traffic in our waterways, harbour pilots are essential.
Harbour pilots are professionals at sea. We ensure safety of the vessel throughout the whole passage.
Good morning, YD1. Coming up Bukit, going to Panjang.
Every year, Singapore's port handles several 100 million tons of cargo. A good amount of that are food imports. In fact, about 2/3 of all food imports to Singapore come in by sea. Helping the very many enormous merchant vessels navigate our local waters are harbour pilots.
Harbour pilots are professionals at sea. We come on board ships every day to bring the ship safely from one point to another point. We have the local knowledge of the Singapore waters and the port. We work together with the captain and the bridge team to ensure safety of the vessel throughout the whole passage.
Nur Adila joined PSA Marine in 2015 after graduating from Singapore Maritime Academy. She is one of almost 300 harbour pilots working at our port. And today, Adila is assigned an inter-gateway piloting job. She will be guiding a container ship carrying dry food items from all over the world, from one local terminal to another.
I will go on board to assist the captain using the tugboats to unberth the vessel from Brani Terminal. I will swing the vessel and then we will proceed to Panjang Terminal. The journey will roughly take approximately 2 hours.
And in these days of COVID-19, precautions are the norm.
Because we are the maritime frontliners, so we must make sure that when we are going to work, we need to wear all the full PPE, which includes the surgical gown, N95 masks, our gloves, and the face shield also. With this weather in Singapore, sometimes it's not helping. We are sweating a lot during the job, so it's quite tedious. Other than that, we cannot enter the accommodation of the ship. So basically, going to the bridge, we need to go by the external way. So it's all stairs. Sometimes it's like 10 stories. And sometimes you need to imagine it's raining heavily or it's very hot. You still need to ensure social distancing with the crew. And wearing this N95 mask, sometimes the crew or the captain cannot hear your command. So you must speak extra loud for everyone to hear.
So now we are outside alongside Brani 7. So later we have one tugboat, one bow thruster.
It's a routine Adila is used to by now. Each of her 9-hour shifts comprise at least 5 piloting jobs. But regardless of the additional challenges, some things must not change.
Yes, correct. All ready. Before 95.
Okay, thank you.
We have to have a very high situational awareness because we need to keep lookout for any vessels. We need to brief the bridge team, make sure we are on the same page. And we also need to listen to the radio, the VHF, because it's very busy. So sometimes there might be information overloaded. So when this thing happens, we delegate jobs to the officers on board. We work as a team together.
We will expect some bunker barges coming from the west.
1.5 hours later, the vessel is finally approaching Panjang Terminal.
When a ship is coming alongside a port or a jetty, we require tugboats assistance to bring the ship alongside because the ship can't move parallel by itself. So we work hand in hand with the tug master. So we'll give them orders on the pushing power or the pulling power for the ship. So to ensure that the ship is always parallel when it enters the jetty. We use the 2 tugs to push the ship alongside.
After a half hour of pushing, the ship is berthed and the cargo on board can be unloaded.
The most exciting part is when you get a very difficult job and you manage to complete the job. It's like a sense of satisfaction, especially bringing those big ships. It's very difficult because of the current, the wind, a lot of external forces. When we overcome all these challenges and captain really appreciate it, that's the sense of achievement, which I love it every time when I manage to finish a job safely.
But that appreciation was hard-won by this young female harbour pilot in a male-dominated industry.
When I come on board, usually the captain's average of 50 years and above with lots of experience. I'm only 26 years old. We only have 7 female pilots out of almost 300 pilots here. So we are the minority here. To gain the same respect from the captain to all the other male pilots in the company, I have to work extra hard by telling them all the necessary information needed professionally and being serious at work. This helped me to gain confidence on myself, and captain also gained confidence on me to handle his vessel.
But at home, Ardilla has the appreciation and support of her husband, who is himself a harbour pilot.
What weather he's going to expect and all. He understands my shift pattern and how our job is out there, because sometimes it's very tiring. So he will understand if at home we just want to rest and just do nothing. We don't really expect much each other to do more. We know that both of us are exposed to a lot of things out there. So we will remind each other most of the times to be careful when we go on board, not to be so close to this person or that person. Make sure we wear the full PPE, make sure before you touch the equipment, clean all the equipment first. We keep each other in check.
All the chickens from Leong Hup's Malacca farm have been unloaded at their premises in Singapore. The poultry will now be prepared according to their customers' requirements, whether for them to be packed whole, cut into desired sizes, or even marinated. 70% of the chickens are portion cut. Muhammad Rafiwa is one of Leong Hup's 350 staff. His role in the processing line is at the cutting machine.
8.30 mesin jalan, saya start gantung. Saya gantung dalam sejam, 800 ekor ayam lah. Lepas tu saya sudah gantung 1 jam, saya pergi buat packing.
Rafi's job requires speed, some precision, and great care.
Lagi satu, kena fokus je gantung ayam. Tak fokus, tu tangan boleh masuk dalam mesin. Bahaya. Sebab mesin dia tak boleh slowkan. Lepas tu kena ikut je yang dia pusing tu.
Rafi has a daily target to process 6,000 chickens for Leong Hup's 300 customers, which includes supermarkets, hawker stalls, and restaurants. And sometimes, the repetitive action of the job requires him to break the routine.
Lepas tu saya dah sakit tangan, saya panggil kawan gantung. Lepas tu saya boleh pergi tandas lah. Bos bagi pergi tandas. And then saya tolak ayam, bawa naik ayam. Naik ayam tu dalam 20 troli. Berat jugalah. Tapi tak boleh nak buat apa juga sebab kena tolong family apa semua. Saya setiap bulan saya untuk family RM2,000. RM2,000.
23-year-old Rafi is from Kelantan and the youngest of 7. Pre-pandemic, he rented a place in Negeri Sembilan, midway between home and Singapore. He would then make the long commute to work across the causeway every day. COVID-19 brought that to a halt, and Rafi now stays at the company dormitory.
Nak kerja Malaysia pun gaji tak tinggi sangat. Di saat saya kerja dekat sini lah boleh tolong family sebab abang pun tak bekerja. Sebab ayah saya sebelum ni dia masuk hospital. Dia operate jantung. Jantung ada nanah kat dalam jantung. Alhamdulillah lah sebab saya pun tak dapat balik tapi saya dapat naikkan pangkat sebagai team leader.
But since April 2020, when migrant worker dormitories here were swamped with COVID-19 cases, workers like Rafi have been living under strict restrictions.
Selepas kerja, saya balik dom, saya cuci baju, lepas cuci baju saya makan, saya lepak-lepak dengan kawan. Company ada bagi makanan lah. Tak boleh keluar tu company bagi makan. Perasaan tu bosang tu ada lah sebab tak boleh keluar kan. Rindu family lagi.
Family get-togethers have since only been virtual.
Buat apa tu? Ha? Balik nanti lepas agenda kot. Ni VTL boleh balik ni.
Over at Changi Airport, cargo including food items have arrived on this SQ flight. The cargo handling team from SATS will now take charge.
Curiosity got to me. What happens behind the scene? How does all this cargo food supply goes from a country to another country and all that?
Changi Airport's weekly cargo flights have more than tripled compared to end 2019. And food imports are very much part of all that traffic. The majority of air freight in Singapore is handled by SATS. Edwin Tan is one of its many ramp service agents, ensuring that cargo is safely unloaded from the planes. But before the real work starts, there is something he must take care of.
Once I leave home, I go have a proper meal because once at work, there might be a situation or circumstances happening which we will not be able to foresee. So keeping a full stomach is important. On reaching the office, I check my flights. We'll discuss on what to unload for the flights and stuff, and what to watch out for and the necessities for the flight before we head over to the bay.
The 25-year-old had studied hospitality, but ended up joining SATS in 2019. And today, he will be taking care of the food items that have just arrived from Japan on this Singapore Airlines flight.
Curiosity got to me that what happens behind the scene? How does all this food supply goes from a country to another country? So I decided to embark on the back of house journey at work. So ever since I gotten my license at the age of 19, I've realized that I like to be in control of equipment. And then moving on to sets and all, I do get the chance to try out and get my license for heavy machineries. So it's been pretty rewarding to be able to operate all these more complicated and more precision machinery. Before I become a RAM service agent, I'll go for a 6-week course of practical training. It took me a while, I would say, because compared to driving a car where it's just forward and backwards, but driving RAM equipment at the airside It requires me to watch out for my colleagues who are walking underneath my equipment. So precision is very important and being aware of the surroundings.
Edwin services 5 to 8 flights a day, with each flight taking up to 70 minutes to be completely unloaded. It's a physically demanding job that has only become more demanding since the pandemic.
I've been wearing spectacles since I was young. Before the pandemic, the glasses, they were fogging up a bit here and there. But it wasn't as bad as when the pandemic started, when we had to wear our surgical facial mask. The glasses do fog up. Eventually, I decided it's a hassle to keep wiping my glasses. I decided to get an anti-fogging lens to accompany my glasses.
Another challenge is the extreme noise levels on the tarmac.
I will be wearing my earplugs. They don't totally cancel out the noises, because totally cancelling out the noises means you can't hear your external area. And that can be dangerous for you. It actually just minimizes the loud noises, especially the aircraft coming in, the engine noise. But so far, I have not been very worried, as my colleagues who have been working here for many years, their hearing is still perfectly fine, and we do go for frequent ear checks and eyesight tests when the company sends us for it. But I do notice that, especially at the tarmac area, I tend to speak more loudly, and occasionally, at home as well.
But speaking loudly isn't nearly enough to communicate with his team. For that, Edwin had to learn a special skill: sign language.
It's better to use sign language compared to shouting across to indicate and let them know what I want or need from them. Colleagues misinterpret what you're trying to explain to them. So instead of, let's say, I'm telling them to bring something over to me, they thought that I'm telling them to go forward and help me push away one of the cargoes away, so that it doesn't block me from working.
Over the past 2 years, Edwin has gotten used to his challenging work environment. His colleagues over at the SATS Cool Port have also had to adapt to their equally challenging environment. Here, facilities dedicated to the cold chain handling of temperature-sensitive goods include 18 cold rooms across 4 different temperature zones.
I love my job as I am able to see the process of the foods, and I think it's very meaningful, as I am the key role as I will store the food properly and also ensure it's safe before it's distributed.
The temperature here is 2 to 8 to protect all the perishables in a good condition. I use my jacket and my glove to protect my body from cold. Although it's very cold, but I like it very much.
Safety is of paramount importance when it comes to food. At Leong Hap, where live chickens are prepared for various retailers, Quality Assurance Executive Lee Jing-yi must ensure they are safe for consumption.
For the poultry industry, temperature is actually a very important check that we have to do. I need to monitor the product temperature, the surrounding temperature of the production area as well as the chiller area, to make sure that our products are not being abused to any temperature changes, and it will be able to keep the freshness of the chicken products. Bacteria actually can grow very rapidly at a temperature that is higher than 4 degrees, and this will cause spoilage. And of course, when somebody eat this kind of products at the end, they will actually cause some food poisoning incidents. So we need to ensure that the temperature is within the range during cutting and after cutting, and even packing of the items.
The entire production line falls under Jing-yi's care, and she has to ensure that it remains clean and hygienic.
I actually conduct some environmental swabbing in the production area to find out if there's any bacterial on surfaces, on surroundings, or even on workers' hands. And this swab will then be sent to a third-party laboratory to see whether there's any bacterial count. Once we have identified that certain areas have a very high bacterial count, we will need to do cleaning or sanitizing of the area. There are actually certain control measures that are in place. For example, currently for production, we are doing what we call the misting procedure to sanitize the area using aerosols. So we actually put a machine inside and then they will spray some chemicals inside the production area. We just have to do it once every few months to make sure that these control measures are actually effective in helping us to maintain the bacterial count to be low inside the production areas.
The 26-year-old joined Leong Hap in 2018 after graduation. When the pandemic hit, the pressures at work were heightened.
I do feel a little bit of fear because as a frontliner, I have to go back to work every day and I will be coming into contact with a lot of people. So there is definitely a risk of me getting infected with the virus, but because I do feel that what I am doing is quite meaningful, I am trying to ensure a safe supply of food in the local market. I think it's more meaningful than thinking about the risk, right? Because there is always risk to everything.
Safety precautions, such as regular testing at her workplace, has helped Jing Yi reassure her family, all of whom are working from home.
Of course, my family is fearful. So we have some safety precautions in place. I follow certain personal hygiene practices, washing my hands, sanitizing my hands, taking my body temperature to ensure that I am still healthy. I will be the one trying to get all the daily groceries and necessities back at home so as to minimize the number of people that is heading out. So the equation of the curve is given to be y equals to 2x plus 1 over x plus 3.
Despite her responsibilities at work and at home, Jing Yi had taken on additional duties during her off hours.
Off work, I actually help to tutor students in the secondary school level. Although classes has to be done online, but that is actually a way for me to still have a way to interact with people. So what we have to do now is basically to simplify. During these lessons, trying to talk to them and guide them to all the syllabus in school. We also get to have a chat about their personal life. I find joy in guiding and talking to this group of people. That is our final answer for these questions.
When perishable foods arrive by sea, they are also stored in cold rooms with strict quality control measures to ensure the food items remain safe for consumption.
To see whether this item is appropriate in terms of its food quality, in terms of appearance, and is there any signs of food spoilage, to actually make sure that this food product is safe for consumption.
Arriving by sea are many food items, including fresh and frozen perishables. When perishable foods arrive, they are sent to a warehouse where they are stored in cold rooms. Commonwealth Kokubu Logistics, or CKL, is one such warehousing facility in Singapore. 70% of the storage area is controlled between -25 to -30 degrees.
We have a checklist. So before we receive, we must check expiry date, quantity, daily. After that, we put at the storage.
To ensure that the food remains fresh until delivery to their different customers, there are multiple levels of safety and hygiene checks, including those conducted by local food safety authority, Singapore Food Agency. The SFA's main concern is that all imported food items are within acceptable food safety standards. And it is quality analyst Sherelle Lowe's job to prepare food samples for the SFA checks.
Based on SFA regulations, all the imported products are to be inspected in terms of their own discretion. So when we receive notification from them that they have to inspect products from our company, we will have to prepare samples for them for the inspection. So this is the priority of my job. I will actually take the stocks from our system, from the automated storage retrieval system. We'll put it in the freezer, and then while the officer is here for the inspection, then we will transport the carton box from the freezer to this room for their inspection. Today's item is chicken frank, which is also known as chicken sausage. We have a one pallet of 100 cartons. He randomly took one of the carton for the inspection to see whether this item is appropriate in terms of its food quality, in terms of appearance, and is there any signs of food spoilage, to actually make sure that this food product is safe for consumption.
Sherelle also liaises with CKL's customers, including supermarkets, food retailers, and fast food restaurants. They too conduct their own audits.
For most of the external audits, it will involve temperature controlling, warehouse housekeeping, pest control. They will have to check if their items itself are also placed in the organized manner that they want us to be adhered with their guidelines. When we conduct investigations, we cannot have food in contact with our bare hands.
The 27-year-old has been working for the food industry for over 4 years. She previously worked as a quality analyst for a food trading company and joined CKL only in mid-2021.
I was quite lucky to have this opportunity, and it was coincidentally happening in COVID-19. I've been in my previous company for a few years, and I think that I would like to experience new things and also to learn more new things from another environment, and also to contribute my skills. I'm still new in the company, so I will still have more things to learn.
For Sherelle and her colleagues, the pandemic has meant working extra hard to keep the supply chain running smoothly.
I think that period of time is actually quite challenging for companies like us. So we are actually quite physically stressed at that moment of time because of the workload. COVID-19 actually impacted my physical stress. There is some emotional stress as well, because when you are very physically drained out, you will feel tired, you will feel sad, you will feel very disorganized, or you don't feel like doing anything. Yeah, so it did actually impacted me as well.
Jogging and catching up with her friends online helped to relieve some of the stress.
Like, there's a pros and cons where COVID-19 actually started, and it changed my life in terms of the good and the bad side. The good side will be making me more physically active, and the bad side will be maybe less interactions with my friends. But there's still online gadgets, so we can actually interact through online platforms. You're preparing for exams, right? I remember.
A consignment of chocolates from France has arrived in Singapore and is ready for pickup from the SATS Cool Port. One company specializing in the transport and handling of perishable food is Sea Frigo, with their refrigerated trucks. Most of their clients deal in gourmet food items that have to be kept within specific temperature ranges.
This is my truck, which has frozen, can keep frozen and keep chill. I have this partition, which can divide into 2 sectors. Let me show you. So if for frozen, it's normally minus 18 to minus 25. For chill, is 2 to 8 degrees. So in that case, if we have frozen item, we can keep in front. Then for the chill, you'll be here. Today, it's very lucky. We come at 1 o'clock to pick up the shipment. As you can see, as there's not much lorry, so the waiting time will be very short. If you come in the morning, we'll be waiting for like 2 hours or more. Hence, there will be some delay.
The toughest challenge part of my job is I need to explain to the customer that sometimes I will be late delivering to them because I'm still waiting for the shipment to be collected.
Chen Weijie joined Seafrigo in 2016, but he's been a truck driver since 2008. He and his wife Wind have been working together for the last 14 years, picking up and delivering goods that arrive by air.
I start working after I finish my national service, and then my friend asked me to join him in one delivery company, and he told me that this job suits me because I do not have to sit in the office, which I prefer. My favorite part of this job is I can travel around, and I also feel happy when the customer receives the cargo in good condition.
But the job has its own demands.
You need to know the products well because it's temperature sensitive. If you keep it in the wrong temperature, you might spoil the products. You need to be physically fit because there are some products which is quite heavy and you need a lot of strength to carry and then deliver them. You need to be patient also because sometimes you need to wait for the shipment and sometimes it's stuck at custom and also the traffic jam. The toughest part of my job is I need to face the customer who is sometimes is angry. I deliver late to them. I still have to be polite and apologize to them because I still need to face them almost every day.
But Weijie and Wind have their routine down pat.
You go 218 process.
While he waits in the truck, his wife helps with processing the permit at the Cool Port counter.
Now it's around 1:30, so there's lesser people here. Normally in the morning, there's more people coming here to take their cargo. Normally there is only one driver, so they have come down themselves to queue here. With my help, he wait for the slot so that I can queue here. Then once there's slot, he can go in and I can tell them the parking lot, then they can give me the cargo faster.
And today, things are going smoothly.
I feel happy and lucky that my wife is working with me because she can help me out in many ways, which I can save a lot of time. Sometimes she need to buy food for me because the place doesn't have a parking space, and then sometimes she need to call customer for me because I can't call when I'm driving. So in many sense, she helped me quite a lot.
At the start of the circuit breaker in 2020, Weijie was worried about losing his job, but was assured that his position was safe.
Many other logistic companies stopped bringing in food during COVID, and my company that specialized in food got more business during the circuit breaker.
The extra business meant more work for Weijie and Wind, which had an upside. The couple has 3 young children below 12 who are cared for by his parents when they are at work.
I cannot bring my kids to go out during the weekend because I'm afraid that they might have a higher chance of getting COVID. During circuit breaker, my kids will call me and ask me what time I will be reaching home. Then I will tell them I will be late because I need to work more to earn extra income for them, to buy more toys and let them stay at home and play.
For the chickens from Leong Hap, one of the last stops in the supply chain is here at this hawker centre in Bukit Panjang. And as with the rest of Singapore's many food imports, it has taken multiple people working on the front line to deliver it into our meals.